everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a review of the highly anticipated second trailer for The Batman, which was recently shown on a DC Fandome 2021 event. Now, The Batman is of course the latest live action adaptation of the iconic DC superhero character. This time it is directed by Matt Reeves and it stars Robert Pattinson in the lead role alongside Colin Farrell, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano and Jeffrey Wright, and it's due for release on March the 4th 2022 following various delays due to the pandemic. And as far as we know, it still stands as a theatrical release only. Now, you can check out my review of the first trailer of this film, which debuted on the first DC Fandome event back in 2020. And just quickly, overall, I felt that trailer was very well put together, considering that the movie was only 20 to 30% complete at the time. I wasn't completely convinced by Pattinson in the lead role, either as Bruce Wayne or the Batman. I have some issues itself with the Batsuit design and clearly see that they clearly are going for a far more grounded, almost like a police procedural take within this movie. From everything that we've heard about this project, they really want to go for much more of a detective style narrative. That's the quintessential element that most people associate with the character, and they feel that that side of Batman hasn't really been emphasised in the previous live action films that we've seen. Now, this Batman will take place during the second year of his career as a crime fighter, and it's rumoured to be around 3 hours long runtime. But the second trailer overall, I thought it was decent. It was a bit disjointed, to be honest, in terms of its sequencing. There was a lot of mood and atmosphere, very much in keeping with the overall direction that they're going for this film. But I just think some of the music was very overblown towards the end of the trailer itself. And I actually preferred the first trailer of this film. I just think that was more constructed, better, more put together. I guess they wanted to ramp up a lot of the intensity throughout this second trailer overall, but I just felt it was a bit disjointed at times. There were certain elements that didn't quite flow as well as what they did with the first trailer. I've seen a lot of hype and buzz and over-exaggeration, I feel, towards the second trailer, many claiming it to be a masterpiece, and this is the greatest Batman movie ever, this is the Batman film that they all wanted. Now, of course, people have a right to be excited, but I just feel that it's been over the top. I just think there's been too much of an amplified excitement in terms of this trailer. I'm still not sold as Robert Pattinson in terms of Batman. Whether I see him in the costume and whether I see him look as Bruce Wayne, I just think he doesn't look like what I would imagine Bruce Wayne to be. I still see him far more as a Nightwing rather than a Batman, though I did think that Zoe Kravitz did look very good as Catwoman and Selena Cole. She's very sexy, she's got a lot going on for her, she's got that quiet confidence and assurance about her, and she looks very good in the costume as well. So I think she's going to perform very well throughout the role. So we now just quickly look at what I felt were the standout elements within this trailer, and we look at the first scene when it very much looks like Paul Dano's Riddler is sitting in a diner being arrested by the police. This is probably deliberate and it's very much keeping with the Riddler's personality. As we all know, he's very manipulative and he's very egotistical to see if anybody can solve his riddles, catch his crimes. So it's very strange that he's just sitting there in the diner waiting to be arrested. So that's why I think it was very deliberate that he put himself to be apprehended by the police. I'm not sure why we have to have the question mark within his coffee cup. Again, that's very on the nose, very comic booky, over the top. I'm not really sure what purpose it shows by having a question mark in his coffee, but there you go. We later on seen the bright sign in the sky, which was a good visual. We see Commissioner Gordon putting that up. And again, as usual with all Batman iterations, the relationship between both Batman and, well, at this stage, he's Lieutenant Gordon in this movie, I believe, is going to be crucial overall, in particular in the early stages of Batman's career. We get various shots where we see Batman taking on various thugs, some shots here where we see him taking them on in the street. Later on with the rain, that's what we saw within the first trailer. We get earlier shots again where he's taking on various thugs in the Red nightclub. So the visual aesthetics of this trailer overall is very stunning. We expect the cinematography to be of a high standard, as what it was with the Nolan films as well. So I don't think there's going to be any issues in terms of the film's look. And these sequences, we show very much of a bulletproof Batman with his armor. Again, the more purist Batman fan may not like this idea again of Batman just strolling through bullets, looking almost invincible, but it does make sense for Batman to wear some sort of protective armor. We then get to the scene which for me confirms that are not completely sold on Patterson, and that's when he talks to we assume it's the Riddler in the prison. They have that face-off together, and Patterson, for some reason, he's getting angry when he's trying to, I guess, extract information from the Riddler, and then he punches the glass wall, and Patterson did not sell it for me here. He just looked very jokey as he's trying to showcase some sort of really dark, brooding intensity. You know, a lot of people have mocked recently Christian Bale as Batman when he shows intensity, but Christian Bale was far more convincing and real showing that anger and that grit and that intensity. Michael Keaton as well was so skilled in showing much more of that quiet, more subtle intensity, you know, with the dark, booming voice. But I was never convinced by Patterson at all, and this scene alone just shows me that I don't think he's really gonna sell it overall in terms of Batman. Again, I'm still not sold on the whole construct of the cowl. It did look better than what we saw when we saw the first initial screenshots way back. If you remember, we had that red tinted background minute teaser trailer of the first reveal of Patterson. But yeah, I'm still not sold as well with the whole collar and design of the suit and the cape as well. It just doesn't look right. I still think it would have been benefited people more if Patterson had done a bit more of bulking up for this role. We do get some more visually impressive shots of the city. It's very much got that more bronze, sepia visual look about it. Very similar to Batman Begins. I know there's been a lot of hype about this trailer, how it's more grounded or it's more groundbreaking, but I got a lot of vibes for Batman Begins, and particularly when he's swinging from the rooftops and we see that visual shot where we get the camera panning down on the buildings. So very similar to the first film of Nolan's trilogy. I did like that shot where Batman lights the flare and it seems all of the criminals are surrounding him. Very good visual sequence on here. We did get that intense scene where Batman is seemingly beating down on a criminal and Catwoman is looking upon him, very worried and stressed out. So again, we're going to hinge very much so on the dark side of Batman trying to get to grips with his overall emotions. And again, that's very much keeping with the character. It's always been that schizophrenic personality where Batman is trying to obviously utilize the dark anger to combat the criminals, but at the same time he's trying to keep a cap on it because he doesn't want to cross over that line and become very much like the villains that he's trying to apprehend. As I mentioned earlier, I did very much like the look of Zoe Kravitz in the role. She looks very good in the skin tight Catwoman costume. To be honest, the majority of her scenes were much more in a silhouette with Batman. Again, I like those visual shots in that very much that in that golden glow of that building landscapes that we see them together. But we see the earlier shots here where she's got the far more shortcut hairstyle, and that's very much in keeping in a more recent comic book interpretation of the character of Catwoman when she has the goggles as well. So again, they have captured that comic book look of the character, and Zoe Kravitz, she looks great. I love all of the scenes that she's in. We see her earlier on when she's got the red wig and she's walking through the nightclub. We see that other scene where she's got her hair much more longer with the vest top. And yeah, she's very sexy. She's very hot. I still hate the look of the Riddler. And to be honest, I don't really see it as a classic iteration of the Riddler itself. This will not be the Riddler that we're very much used to, you know, with the green suits and the question marks all over the place. Yes, we will get the various calling cards and the various messages. We've seen that right throughout both trailers of this movie with the messages on the wall and the various riddles concerning Batman. There was that earlier scene within this trailer where we see Robert Pattinson standing and we get that over panning shot and he's got the various messages. But going back to the Riddler itself, this is very much more going to be a mixture of both the Riddler and the Hush character. And if you're very much in tune of the comic book origin of the story Batman Hush, or indeed the Batman Hush animation, this character was very much tied to Thomas Elliot, who is a childhood friend of Bruce Wayne, and then he is revealed to be at first the Hush character, but later on he takes on the Riddler persona. So that's what I think they're going for here. They're going for much more of a mixture of that character. And we do know, if you look at various scenes throughout the trailer, there is going to be some sort of personal connection between both Bruce Wayne and the Riddler. I'm not particularly appealed to this version of the Riddler. It doesn't look like the Riddler in any way, shape or form. I just think they would have been better served had they gone for a more original character. But clearly this is going to be, I think, more in style of Hush than it is the classic iteration of the Riddler itself. And then we close off this trailer with the most spectacular part, which was the car chase scene. We have, it seems, Colin Farrell's Penguin interpretation, again, I've got no real investment. Doesn't look like the Penguin in any way, shape or form. It's very much in keeping with the ambitions of this movie, where they want to be grounded overall. So wasn't that dazzled by this iteration of the Penguin. But this car chase sequence did look very good, where he's driving through and it seems he feels that he's got away from Batman, and then Batman drives through the explosions, and then Penguin's car turns over, and then we see Batman walking through, and then the screen turns upside down, and then we fold into the main title logo. So it was a well shot scene overall, but I just feel the music was a bit overblown. Again, it just didn't seem to have that seamless transition as what we got with the first trailer. When I took a look at this Batman overall, I know there's been a lot of hype, a lot of over intense excitement and anticipation. You're always going to get that with a Batman project, and once again, I feel it's very telling in terms of DC content, where we have seen a far more expansion in terms of the DC lore and mythology. We're getting far more characters being brought to the mainstream, and that's good, and that's what you want. I think the biggest problem with DC has always been their over-focus on Batman at the expense of other characters. We saw that at the most expense, I feel, of the Superman character, particularly in terms of Batman versus Superman and Justice League as well. So it's good that we are seeing more characters being brought to the fore, but I particularly look at the whole social media focus and coverage of this film, and once again, it just seems that people are just so obsessed with Batman. Batman has to be the center of everything. Batman has to be the most excitable, the most spectacular piece of content with all DC community and fandom, and I just think the character's been overused overall. But when I look at this trailer, it does look visually very good, and I'm pretty sure it was going to be very sophisticated, very measured. I do love the musical tones, and it's going to be consistent in its approach and what it's trying to achieve. But my big worry about this film is that it's going to be too grounded. It's going to be to the point where it's going to be very much of a slow burn. Yes, by all means, you can make it much more of a detective noir story, but at the same time, there has to be a certain comic book flavour when we're talking about Batman. This is why I support very much the Tim Burton films, because if you look at the overall aesthetic and the design of Gotham City, they really did make it much more of this otherworldly realm. They made Gotham a place where only Batman can truly understand. You couldn't envisage any of the other DC superheroes really existing in that type of world. So by making Gotham more distinctive, you make the character Batman more distinctive. And again, when you throw in the classic Batman design in terms of the Batmobile as well, you really make Batman far more of a distinguishable character. But when I look at this film, and they really do strip it down, and everything as well, from the Batmobile, got the engine hanging out in the back there, it just looks a bit unremarkable to me. There's a certain style with this tone, but I just think Batman, there should be something that really is stand out about him, from his costume, from all of the gadgetry that he uses, from the Batmobile that he drives. And I just worry that this is going to be too restrained, too much of a police procedural, too much of a detective story, and it's going to be very in the same tone as what I recently commented on in terms of the Batman The Long Halloween, which again was very well put together, was very well sophisticated, but it did drag at times. The story wasn't quite as compelling all the way through, and I just worry, especially if this film is going to be close to 3 hours, that it's going to lag at times and not have that compelling intensity that certainly what we saw with both the Burton films and the Christopher Nolan films as well. But again, a lot of people are overexcited. I am sensing that maybe there's a bit of overhype about this movie. Again, as I mentioned before, the overburning, almost nauseating desire by many fans for this to be the ultimate best ever comic book version of all time, just like the Ben Affleck was going to be the best comic book version of all time when we had those reveals as well. But we wait and see. Overall, Matt Reeves is an accomplished director. I did like all of the Apes films in particular. All of the cast are very high caliber in terms of the acting. Obviously, Zoe Kravitz has had very limited screen roles, but Robert Pattinson, Colin Farrell, Jeffrey Wright especially, I think he's going to be one of the best performances in terms of Jim Gordon as well. And I think Paul Dano will perform very well as the Riddler as well. So there's a lot of positive vibes to give about this project overall. From my personal perspective, I'm just going to keep my expectations in check, and Robert Pattinson has still got to do a lot more to convince me that he can be the next iconic Batman going ahead for mainstream movies going forward. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings on the second Batman trailer. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If we get any further screenshots or reveals, or indeed we get a third trailer of the film, then of course I will cover that. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I assume a lot of you are Batman fans and you're going to be very excited, but if there are any of you that have similar concerns like me in terms of the overall direction that they're taking with this character, let me know what you think in the comments as well. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.